Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs, I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream. All right, welcome to my live stream. Happy Saturday. I'm going to be working on page 154 of the graphic novel Not Death But Love, The Strange Supernatural Story of Elizabeth Barrett Browning for Turner Publishing. And continuing that page, because last night, I basically worked on shading it. We got Gary in the chats. How's it going, Gary? I'll probably be playing Jim Lujan's new promo spot that he made for me again, which is pretty exciting. If you guys didn't see yesterday's, I debuted it there, but it's a brand new Jim Lujan cartoon with voices by Gary Hodges himself. So that's pretty exciting. And also Scott Zirkland doing voices, so that's pretty cool. I'm also going to be fixing a panel. This happens to me sometimes. I noticed that in the roughs, I had specified that Sophie, the character, had taken off her gloves, and then in the fourth panel is holding her gloves. I had drawn it, and I think at the time when I was drawing it, I was listening to something, and I wasn't paying attention, and so I had her taking off her gloves, and then in the fourth panel, I kept her gloves on, which is kind of silly. Why have her taking her gloves off only to have her have them on later? So that's kind of bizarre. And then I'm not sure if I quite nailed the gloves being on her in the first panel either. So there's a lot of like glove inconsistency that I got to fix. So we're fixing gloves today. But then after that, I'm going to finish shading and probably finish coloring the page. So that's what I plan on doing. If you hear noises in the background, it's because we're amid an epic laser tag battle between my son and his cousin. They've been in a war of laser tag all throughout the house. And you know, I'm trying not to catch strays over here, but I might. Oh, there we go. We've got some laser tag action in the background for your entertainment. And then because I'm a Dodger fan, the Dodgers are actually playing Boston as we speak, but I'm being a responsible cartoonist, and instead of listening to the game, I'm going to be working and just kind of keeping the stats of the game good. But Ohtani's going to start it off at bat from what it looks like, which is pretty exciting. That's my favorite player. Surprise, surprise. He's one of the best in baseball. And that's basically it. So let's get into it. So here is the page. And as you can see, I kind of screwed up a little bit. So I'm going to turn off this. I just forgot to have the gloves in some of these scenes. So here she is taking her gloves off. That is why she's in this pose. I'm going to add some gloves to this hand. I'm going to erase some fingernails because you're not going to see fingernails through a glove. There is just wildness in the background, guys. It's like it's, you know, at the beginning of Star Wars when you have, you know, the Rebel Alliance is trying to defend themselves from Darth Vader's, you know, incursion onto their ship, and it's feeling pretty similar to that, guys. So this is the war zone that I live in, guys. It gets pretty wild in the Kemble house. Oh crap! I have to close this and then start over because this happens sometimes with Photoshop. Where here I'll show you. Like the Wacom driver's not quite kicking in. So usually if I just close it out, let's go ahead and save this. Sure. Close it out and then let me reopen it. Hopefully that will solve the Wacom pressure sensitivity. Yes, it did. That's cool. I don't know what's up with Wacom's drivers lately. For those of you who use Wacom and a Mac, let me know if you guys have the same issue. But I have just noticed that Wacom for the last few years, no matter how often you update the drivers, at least on my computer, every time I restart my computer, I have to reboot and reinstall the Wacom driver. It's just got major Wacom issues, you know what I'm saying? Okay. So, pretty good day yesterday. I've been finding the news relatively fascinating lately. You know, I don't always get into politics or anything like that, but those of you who follow my channel probably know I'm not like a huge fan of Donald Trump, to say the least. And to me, what's mystifying is that the right all of a sudden is actually starting to put two and two together and realize that like Trump was associated with Epstein. And it's like weird. This was all known. Like, it's not like that's a revelation. That's the part that's bizarre to me. Sometimes the media cycles and political cycles like mystify me because I'm like, that's not new news. Like, that's something people have known since before the election. I don't think people who supported Trump really cared about it enough. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. I mean, he's a convicted, you know, sex offender too, and nobody ever really cared about that. So it's interesting. I'm hoping the concerns from the right and stuff are real, and that hopefully people will like wake up to that and stop supporting, you know, horrible people. But my concern is there's this whole thing now where Trump is like basically sending the attorney general to talk to Ghislaine Maxwell or something, and now there's like reports that like there's immunity being offered for like her ratting out specific people. So I won't be surprised if in the next news cycle, the next few weeks, you end up seeing you know, pretty much like any opposition to Trump like listed as people on that list. Even though it's like it's been reported in the Washington Post that that his attorney general told him he's on the list, and it's like, again, shouldn't come as any surprise to people. That's the bizarre part, is like I don't know why anyone would be suddenly like, wait a minute, he might actually be on it. Like, yeah, I mean, you know, there's been like video footage of him hanging out. They were like really close friends. They were like neighbors. Yeah, so anyhow, that's been interesting to see. We got Luhan in the chats saying, hey, how's it going, Luhan? How you doing, my dude? What are you guys working on? Anyhow, that's been interesting to me to see the, like, hopefully, you know, I mean, I've been doing this for years, hoping that the right wing of this country will kind of like wake up to what they're supporting, but I doubt it. My best guess is going to be that you're probably going to see Maxwell come out and just name a bunch of Democrats as being on the list or something. Which, by the way, if they are on the list, here's the thing. I don't care where you're at politically. Like, if you are on that list and you associated with that dude, you should go to... Jim said my Epstein list notification went up on my iPhone. Did you mention him? Yes. But yeah, my best guess is going to be you're going to see basically, you know, Ghislaine get pardoned after basically she names a bunch of Democrats as being on the list. That's my guess, and I think that the like my own suspicion. I hope for better, but my own suspicion is that just the way the MAGA crowd is kind of forgotten. Like they kind of tend to stretch the truth to whatever they want to believe to support their dear leader. So my best guess is they're probably going to just do the same thing all over again, where they'll suddenly be like, "Oh wow, now we know the truth from this person who's going to has every incentive and a quid pro quota to basically say whatever Trump wants her to say." So that's going to be my guess. My prediction is that the MAGA folks will just eat it up. But I have to say it's been slightly hopeful seeing some members of the right like starting to hopefully see the light. But again, I've just yeah. Gary said, I'm troubled he was coy with the softball question about pardoning Maxwell. I mean, yeah, the fact that he kept going, well, I hadn't thought about it, but I can. that's pretty. Yeah, and here's the thing I will say is that everything that Trump usually says he's going to do, every awful thing he tends to do. Oh, this is my nephew right there. Yeah, Gary said, and he'll pressure her to say something that puts this to bed for him. Well, that's the thing is, like, Trump usually will telegraph the horrible things he's going to do before he does them, and the right will usually run defense being like, oh, he's just, he's just talking. He's just kind of like, he's a joker. He uses hyperbole. I know he uses offensive speech, but he's not actually going to do that. And then he'll do it, and suddenly they'll be all about it. And they've been doing this for years. It's like just the tactic of like first feigning ignorance, second kind of saying, oh, well, it's just jokes. And then third, when like some weird fascist thing happens, just being like, well, yeah, I mean, that's what we've always supported, and you're like, oh, okay. So that's happened enough times in the last, during the last two terms, that I just, my hope for human dignity has like my hope for humans to kind of like change their minds has significantly dropped. But again, like, I still can't say I don't have hope that, they'll see through it and not buy his excuse or be okay with him pardoning, a pedophile. Like, basically, that's the thing. But here's the thing, that the reason I don't think they're going to change their minds is, like, before he was even elected, before he was even put in office, they knew he was palling around with Epstein. Like, I mean, like, there's testimony of women who were trafficked from Mar-a-Lago, like, actually at Mar-a-Lago. So we know, like, not only were they hanging out, but, like, that stuff was going down at Trump's resort. And so the idea that he wasn't complicit in this, when you have, like, just all this footage of him palling around with, Jeffrey Epstein, they're literally neighbors. Even after it all went down and they asked about Ghislaine Maxwell, he was like, she's a great person, like when she was arrested. So, like, we've known this before he got elected. They didn't care then. I don't think they're suddenly going to care now. Now, people in the middle who might have gotten, like, sucked into the whole cult, maybe it'll help them get out of it, Dee Dee just popped in the chats. Dee Dee, you only pop in the chats when I get political. Okay. Gary said, I think this will end up hurting him and the QAnon maniacs. They've spent the past 10 years or whatever LARPing as pedo hunters, but he's clearly not on their team. Yeah. But yeah, so anyhow, like again, I mean that's a good example in the chats. Like people who support this guy will run defense for him. And probably the second Maxwell comes out, just ignore the fact that it's like a quid pro quo that clearly happened. So that's why I don't have a ton of hope for it. But it's interesting. It's fascinating to me. I'm definitely, I don't know. That's fascinating. That's been an interesting one. All right, so we are doing our shading. Dee Dee said she's going to keep her MAGA money for reasonable people. Well, that's okay. I don't need MAGA money. Thank you, Dee Dee. Yeah, so anyhow, it's gonna be interesting to see how it plays out, but I'm curious how quick, MAGA is gonna run defense, and from the few MAGA folks I interact with, including in my chats, I'm guessing the defense is continuing, without even really seeing any of the evidence or the lists. But I hope people persist and keep caring about the list. I just don't think they will. Because at the end of the day, it's never been about children. It's just been about extending, like, a fascist regime, So anyhow, that's fun. What else is going on? We've got some beautiful shading going on page 154. I have to hope, though, that it's just ignorance, but I don't know, man. Like, at this point, it's hard to believe that someone in that camp is just ignorant to what's happening. However, it is like a cult thing, so it's hard to know. Like, the cult runs deep. What do we got here? We have a page to finish. And it's going to be a good page. So I heard tell, I don't know if this is true, but it's interesting. I'm wondering when this was from. Was it? Let's see. Let me see where it is. I can't find it. Anyhow, so it's going to be interesting to see what all goes down with that. But it's definitely entertaining to see people shocked by the idea that, like, the dude might actually be on the list. So hopefully, I don't know. Yeah, yeah. My wife was pointing out. Well, it's probably just locker room talk, right? They were besties, but they broke off their friendship. I don't know, some excuse. Okay, so we are. I shouldn't talk Trump when the wife's around. She just doesn't even like.
Like millions and trillions of women marched against after him.
Yeah.
They said that, but they still elected him, and he's still president.
Yeah.
Who cares? None of this is going to change anything.
No, it probably won't.
You can totally verbally abuse women right in front of everybody, and they vote for him.
My wife is basically pointing out, like, yeah, I mean, he's kind of been, like, pretty anti women for a long time, and yet, like, no one's really cared about it, so why would they care now? Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, well, anyhow. What do we got here? We have Otani coming up to bat. Let's see how that's going. I do want to keep track of the game. I know that's corny, guys. It looks like Otani homered. That's beautiful. Well, good job. So Otani homered, and Smith struck out. So good start. Good start for the Dodgers. They feel like they've been back on their game, but we'll see. Because the last like 3 or 4 games, a couple games ago were pretty bad, but then like the last 2 were really good. So it's always hard to tell with these things whether they're going to be on their game or not, but they seem to have really good momentum right now. It's interesting to me, like haven't been doing art for so long that like the few times when I've ever brought up sports in the past were just analogies for how to do art. Like like because I wasn't a sports guy, but sports was such a good way to build an analogy for like teamwork or for persistence or the pursuit of excellence. Um, like practicing, being consistent, showing up, doing your work. Just a lot of things that we do as artists, like to kind of do this thing. Um, there are parallels, right? But it's fascinating to me now that I'm actually watching sports again to kind of see some of those parallels. Like, one of the things that I've noticed is like there is like momentum with athletes for sure, right? And teams for sure, where when they get on like a winning streak, it's like it's rarely do you have just like one game where somebody wins. It's like they'll have like losing streaks. And it's like but when they capitalize on like a winning streak, like teams tend to do really well. And I've thought about that with art, because I don't know if you guys have ever had it, but I've definitely had like streaks of just failure, like utter failure as an artist in the past, where it felt, where in it, it felt like this is just gonna be the end of my, career, like, or why did I get into this kind of, that kind of. More so when I was younger, but those things happen, and they do kind of seem like a momentum thing. Like as a creative, you'll get in these really beautiful, like locked in states where you're just able to kind of make art without a lot of effort. Like, or it's effort, but it doesn't feel like effort, right? Because you have like really good momentum going. And I do see that a lot with at least with baseball, where it does seem like players have like these really killer streaks, and then they'll have the momentum die and stuff, and it's like it does seem like capitalizing on momentum is really a big just kind of human endeavor. Whenever we're trying to do something, you don't want to lose the momentum of success in whatever you're doing. I mean, I definitely feel that with my own art. Like the last few weeks or whatever, I've been having quite a bit of success with just getting pages done the last few days. Um, and I want to keep that momentum going, because if I lose that momentum, it's suddenly going to be a lot harder to kind of knock out these pages. Whereas right now, it doesn't feel as difficult. Now, keep in mind, I'm in a luxurious situation now that's gonna change very soon. Which is, right now, one of my only real concerns that I have to worry about is just getting pages done. Whereas next week, I start like orientation for where I work, and start up the school year again. And so while I'm in a comfortable position now where I can knock out pages, hopefully I can build off that momentum and continue to kind of get pages done, while also teaching and going to school as a student as well. So we'll kind of see how that goes. What do we got here? We have some interesting things happening with this page, though. I'm glad I was able to fix that, though, with the gloves. Although I should probably have a couple pairs, right, of gloves here. Like, you're generally not just holding one glove. One glove. I was trying to think of like a parody of One by U2, but just one glove, you know? Carry each other, carry each other. I don't know. Something about two gloves, you know? Here's a question for chat. How do you guys feel about U2? How do you feel about U2? And if you like U2, what's your favorite era of U2? I will admit to being a fan of U2, and I like. I mean, what a shocking thing, right? It's like easily one of the most notorious bands. Um, but I don't know. I know people who actually cannot stand U2, and it kind of kills me a little bit. But I think that my favorite albums by U2 would be the Joshua Tree. Um, I have kind of a soft spot for Octung Baby, which I know is like that. That's not one of the ones that's high up there on a lot of music critics lists, but that's like the era of U2. Like in my mind, when I was at the age that Octung Baby came out, I'd have to look it up, but I'm guessing I believe that came out when it was either when I was in junior high or like really early in high school. So it kind of hit that soft spot of I feel like there's something real special about that era of life for music nerds. Like whatever you kind of fell in love with when you were an emotional little junior high kid, you know, like here's the thing. I would, there's this era where I would, put on records. I'd like light incense in my room, which is weird because I don't really do incense anymore. But when I was in junior high, incense was really cool. Um, but anyhow, like so you light candles and incense in your room and listen to like a really cool album and like pour through the liner notes and think about your feelings. Like anyhow, U2 is one of the bands that would be on rotation during that emotional time of feeling disconnected from adults who don't get you and going through all that growing pain of being a kid. But yeah, like so Octung Baby kind of came out at like a perfect time for that. So I have a more kind of I have a very nostalgic connection to Octung Baby, but I would say their best is probably the Joshua Tree because that's just an amazing, like front to back. That's like I would almost consider it like a perfect album. But anyhow, I will say I rewatched. Oh my gosh, now I'm blanking out on his name. Who's the actor who's in Zoolander? Do you guys remember? Why? Oh, Ben Stiller. That's right, Ben Stiller. So the other day I was thinking about the Ben Stiller show. Because there was this sketch. This is back when like MTV was a thing, right? And they had the Ben Stiller show, but they had a sketch, a series of sketches where Ben Stiller played Bono, and they're hilarious. Like if you haven't seen these, you should definitely look them up. He did like the best Bono impersonation. But there is an episode where I can't remember. It wasn't actually Lucky Charms, but they did like a fake cereal ad for something that was like a parody of Lucky Charms, where it was like if if U2 was suddenly commercially like making songs about Lucky Charms, which is such a funny bit. It's classic. If you guys haven't seen it, maybe I'll pull it up or something during the stream, but I would worry about that getting like copyright flagged. Hey, LA Dodgers having a really good first game against Boston. Well, not the first game of all time, but just like the first of this series is coming along pretty good. It's 2-0, guys. 2-0 Dodgers in favor. Speaking of Boston, I have always found Boston accents to be very charming. Was Bobby's World in Boston, or was it just a Great Lakes area? Because I feel like there was like the mom in Bobby's World had kind of almost like a Michigander or Massachusetts which I get confused. The accents I get confused because they're very similar. But where did Bobby's World take place? Where the mom had kind of a Babby, kind of like she had a Bobby accent and Babby. Anyhow, because I feel like Boston kind of has a similar accent. But then it's kind of weird because I feel like even Michigan, like a lot of the Great Lakes areas have like very similar pronunciation. Yeah, that would be something that would be fun to look into. Is what are the origins of accents and where do they derive from? Would be a really fun thing to look into. Because there's definitely like state specific ways of pronunciation. But it is interesting, like, to me, some of them are, I guess if you were in those states, you'd be able to kind of differentiate. But to me, a lot of them like sound very similar, like once you get to certain regions around the Great Lakes. We got Dylan joining in chat saying hi, Josh. How's it going, Dylan? How you doing, my dude? We're working on comics. What are you guys working on? I know Luhan is working today. I know Gary is working today. I'm gonna take a wild guess. Tell me if I'm wrong here, guys. I'm gonna do a Sophie move and pretend that I'm conjuring spirits to answer this question. I get a sense. When I close my eyes and try to connect spiritually with Jim Luhan, I'm seeing an ice cream cone, but it's upside down. It's not a cone. It's a horn, a unicorn. It's a unicorn horn. Am I right, Jim? Am I right? Sensing something about unicorns in what you're working on. And then Gary, something about I'm sensing something about dirt. Like we're digging really deep in the dirt. And then it's there's like a layer, like a record of some kind. With fossils, dinosaurs. Gary, are you doing something related to dinosaurs? Am I right? Have I proven my spiritual abilities by guessing what my really close friends are working on? No dirt, no dinosaurs? There's no dinosaur related. I just sense something with fossils, like the fossil record, dinosaurs. Mars bots of some kind. I'm getting a sense there's some kind of planet involved. Gary's like, it's uncanny. Yeah. Anyhow, so we are working on shading, guys. That's pretty good, man. That's a pretty good page number. Page 41. Whew, 41 pages, Gary. But see, I feel like your comics get longer every issue. Like, is this one going to be longer than the last, than 1979, or? Oh, it's 58 pages, so you're super close, man. That's really exciting, Garrett. You must be pretty pumped because, like, for me, like getting closer to the finish line. Speaking of momentum, that gives you such a boost, you know, because you can kind of start to see like an end in sight, you know. I feel like the worst place to be is where in a comic is where you're almost halfway there, but you're not quite halfway there. I feel like that's the worst time, is where you're on the back half of the halfway point. But I feel like being that close must be pretty exciting because now it's like there's a finish line in sight. You know, you're not crazy. You're almost there. That's cool too because Gary, there's some pretty fun pages. I don't know. Having read the script, have you already gotten through the? There's kind of a climax in your story, Gary. Have you hit that yet, or I think you'd know the part I'm talking. Have you hit the intense action, or are you like right now in the intense action? I'd be curious. Gary, I think you'd know what I'm talking about. There's a particular part in your plot that when I read it, I was like, that sounds like challenging, but fun as hell to draw. There's a particular part of your story, and I wonder if you've gotten to that particular part, or if you're still working towards it. Dylan said I wanted to say a dirty joke. Well, you can say a dirty joke as long as it's TOS safe. But if it's gonna get me banned off of YouTube, please don't. Okay. We have a background to shade, and then we got some colors to do. And guys, we're at 36 minutes, so if you didn't watch it yesterday, and you're a fan of the Luhan of Jim, of Jimmy the Lutz, the amazing animator extraordinaire, Mr. Luhan. Dylan said it was a spicy joke. Okay, well let's not drop too spicy of a meatball. You know what I'm saying? I probably got a little too spicy during the beginning of this. It's funny. I don't have a problem with artists mentioning politics. I've mentioned this before. I feel like everything you do in life is a political act, whether you like it or not. So the idea of somebody being apolitical, I'm trying to think of anybody who actually is really apolitical. Like, there's a lot of people who talk big about, I don't mention politics, but quite often I've noticed even people who, particularly people who are like, I don't like supporting artists who mention politics. A lot of those people don't really mean that. They just mean they don't like people who mention politics. It's not their own. That's my own experience. But at the same time, you know, in the last few years or whatever, I just haven't found it that interesting to talk about politics because it feels pretty hopeless, to be honest. Like, it's been pretty dark times in the U.S., so I just like to think about other things, you know? So I try not to mention them too much because it's just like it bums me out. Yeah, Gary said it's really not that spicy. Saying Epstein was connected to Trump is not a hot take. No, that's not at all. And it's literal ignorance. Again, we've known this for a long time. You know, we knew this before the dude was elected. If people want to feign and pretend that this is like shocking, or they want to run defense for, you know, their orange leader, that's fine. But yeah, that's not a hot take, right? That's just fact. And sometimes, what is it? Facts are stubborn things, you know? But yeah, but my point is like, well, I don't like personally, part of why I don't want to get too political when I'm streaming is just like, I like to think about other things. Like these things are really depressing to think about. Like, however, I think anybody claiming to not be political is just simply like, they're just not telling the truth. I don't know if that makes sense. Like everything is political. You know, and there are definite times where, like, you know, even by not speaking, you're making political choice, you know. So I don't mind sharing kind of my viewpoint. However, this isn't like a politics show, you know what I mean? And you know, that's I don't know if that makes sense, but part of why I haven't been talking about it a lot is just frankly just exhaustion with the topic because it's depressing. you know, Dylan said I'm loving the discourse around the new South Park episode. The South Park episode is amazing. That made me happy on all kinds of levels. I mean, for one, one of the main reasons that made me really happy was I think I mentioned this on the stream yesterday, but South Park, like I wasn't the guy in high school buying South Park T-shirts and like quoting Cartman all the time and being like, "You guys," but I really enjoyed South Park. The humor in South Park was so unique and amazing. Like it was a really good show, and it's funny the first few seasons. Like it started kind of clunky. Like the first ones were mostly just being a little offensive and kind of like killing Kenny, and that was kind of the gist. But once they kind of got a little like that's actually a show where once they got like slightly more political, it just got really good, like really good, like hilarious. And I feel like peak South Park at least when I was younger was like South Park the movie, like that movie coming out. I must have watched that with friends like a million times. Because it was funny on all kinds of levels. I mentioned this yesterday, but one of the things I really loved about that movie was like, people. I remember when it was going to come out and stuff, and how shocking the show was, and people were offended and worried about, oh, our kids are getting corrupted by the show, that kind of stuff. But at the same time, nobody thought the movie was going to come out and have like amazingly orchestrated music. Like, so it was funny when it was like a musical and it was like literally like, Oscar nomination worthy music, like that to me, the fact that they committed to that was just, I don't know. I still have a real soft spot in my heart for that era of South Park. So there is something about it. I mean, they definitely do a throwback to that movie in this, which makes it really funny because they kind of bring back like the, like basically they just make like Trump into like Saddam Hussein from the movie. Like they do the same bit with him that they did with Saddam Hussein, which is a statement in its own. But there's just so many things in that are hilarious. My favorite part of it is just kind of challenging a guy who cannot take a joke who's in power. That to me is like the funniest part about it. And I think I mentioned this yesterday, but I do feel like with humor, there's just something in the long tradition of humor that goes all the way back to like the Decameron, where, when the Decameron came out, this is years ago. I think there's like a show on Netflix called the Decameron now, which is crazy to me. I don't know if I'd watch it because that's a pretty saucy, that's a saucy book. But back when the Decameron was written, it was like so offensive to the Catholic Church at the time because they were just making jokes, but they were making jokes at the expense of the church, and it was funny. I mean, it was funny, particularly because that's who was in power then, and so like poking fun at an institution that did not take lightly to being having fun poked at them is like, I don't know, that's a long tradition in humor, and I'm glad to see it continue. And they did a good job. They kind of challenged Trump on all the levels that I think it's so petty in the best way. It's like stuff that would just bug. Just knowing a little bit about Trump, it's like clearly going to get under his skin. And the idea of him watching the episode is one of the funniest things in my life. If we could get like video footage of him seeing it, that would be incredible. To just have like a camera, like live stream. That's what I would like to see as a live streamed reaction of his to it. Would be amazing, Yeah, Dylan was saying one of my weekly lives that I attend was last night, and one of the hosts said they stopped watching it because it's transphobic, and I was like, "But sweetie, it's satire. When things get more political, the show is going to get more political." Here's the thing that I respect about that show, and again, I haven't seen. I have to admit it didn't retain its strength the whole time. Like I haven't really kept up with South Park for many years. When I was really into South Park was like the era of like South Park the movie and a little bit after that. But then I remember it got a little repetitive and less kind of fresh later on. But one of the things I liked about the show is the fact that they make fun, like no one is a safe target. And that's definitely been the case with them. They've always been, I think Trey Parker and Matt Stone have always been fairly liberal just as people. Like, but I do respect the fact that they will poke fun at anyone. Yes. Oh, okay, cool. I just respect a lot that they make fun of, like there are no sacred cows. And I feel like that's kind of a good way to go about comedy. Gary said, yeah, it's felt stale for years, but this one felt like old South Park because they were fired up. Yeah, and, you know, South Park has notoriously just done some amazing episodes standing up to institutions. Like, I feel like there's a South Park Mormon episode that I think is one of the best, like, skewering of Mormons. There's an episode of a couple episodes of South Park that really poke at Christians, which I find hilarious. Even though I am a Christian, it's just funny. And then the Scientology episode is like peak South Park. Like, just, I don't know. There's so many good episodes they've done. But yeah, they definitely are offensive. Like, I think that's kind of, I feel like if they aren't offensive and you're watching, like if you aren't offended and you're watching it, at some point, you know, if you yourself aren't offended, like it's like, I don't think Trey Parker and Matt Stone are necessarily doing their job, because I feel like what they do is poke at people. But they definitely have always had a little bit of an angle to it that, you know, even though like sometimes they'll get very offensive, like they've tended to be pretty left leaning, which I've always enjoyed. So, which tends to happen with you know, artists. I mean, like, we're just kind of weird people. So generally, one of the things I liked, this is years ago, but I used to work in an art store on the college campus, like at Cal State Long Beach. There's an art store on campus, and I worked there. One of the fun parts about going to art school, or even being like at an art store, is generally like artists are pretty tolerant people. I don't know if that makes sense. Like, artists just tend to be slightly more tolerant. Not always, but in my experience in life, they tend to be a little more tolerant. But yeah, you're right, Gary. It did feel like old South Park. It felt like they had a vendetta, you know, like, yeah. So we're shading some stuff. Gary said, my pet theory is it's hard to be much of an artist without putting yourself in someone else's head, and that's incompatible with hard right views. Yeah. Elizabeth said, good morning, Joshua Kemble and Chad. I hope you're all well this Sunday. We are. It's Saturday, though. It is Saturday. You scared me for a second. I forget the days of the week. That scared me for a second. I was like, is it already Sunday? That's like one day closer to my summer being over. I agree with that take, Gary. I think just having the ability to empathize is like really important to storytelling. That's not to say there aren't right-wing artists. It's just I think that there's a reason outside of just some sort of political bias or something. I think there's a reason why most artists tend to be more tolerant. Just probably because of that, because you kind of have to get in the head of other people. Yeah, Gary had a similar thing. He was like, "Oh my gosh, for a second I panicked. It's Sunday?" I just realized I don't have the comments on the screen, so now I do. Hopefully that'll work. It is a good Saturday, though. It's a lovely Saturday. So you guys, I'm going to finish the shading here. I might have to eat some dinner. I just realized it's almost 5. So I think what we're going to do here is we're going to finish the shading on this page. And then I'm going to eat some dinner. And then we'll do another stream. How's that sound, guys? So, but before I even leave this stream, hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully that works for you guys too. Hopefully it's around dinner time for you guys as well. And then we'll reconvene after. So, my thinking on that is specifically because I have a lot to do today. I have a lot to do on this page. And if I don't break for dinner, I'll probably just end up forgetting to eat dinner and then, die. That's basically what I'm thinking, guys. So just subtly throwing it out there. Gary with his humble brag again. He's like, "Yeah, I got to head to the gym." I'm just kidding, Gary. Gary tends to be at the gym. Like, I think it's just the time I stream at, but there is an on-running joke that Gary's like humble bragging. I always imagine him just Gary like working on his comic, and he's like, "Oh, I gotta draw this comic right here. That's where I gotta draw the comic, just right there." That's actually anytime I've hung out with Gary, that's how he gives feedback on art, like during the Crestline meetup. I'm like, "Gary, what do you think of this?" And he's like, "Okay, feel that. You feel that? It's tight. Okay, what you need to do is tighten your drawing like that, right there." I'm kidding. It's good you're going to the gym, Gary. I'm just teasing. That would be funny though. Gary, you don't strike me as like a gym bro, but it would be funny if you were like a gym bro. Like you're drawing with one hand and like lifting free weights with the other. And there's like Chad music playing in the background. Yeah. Yeah. That actually used to be a joke with my friends and I in art school. The idea of having an art teacher who's like constantly looking for reasons to like show off their muscles. Like, what you're doing is really good here, but you gotta put it at like a 90-degree angle, like this arm. You see this arm? You see how tight that 90-degree angle is? Like that kind of thing. All right. All right, guys. So we are gonna break for dinner. I have to eat some dinner. And there we go. So I'm gonna go ahead and we'll merge this. I'm gonna play you guys Jim Lujan's new cartoon to close it out. Elizabeth said, "Okay, I hear the pots and pans banging." Yeah, my wonderful wife has been making dinner. So I'm gonna. Gary said, "Don't cry too much about missing out on reasonable MAGA dollars." Yeah, I don't need MAGA dollars. Thank you. I love that. That's like that actually happened in chat today. That was too funny. If you guys want, if you just tuned in and you want to see some entertaining MAGA meltdown, just go back like about 30 minutes. It was funny. It was like somebody like, "Well, I'll just take my MAGA money elsewhere," and it's like, I don't want your like what? Why would I care? All right. Appreciate you guys. If you guys haven't hit the bell, so you get notifications, hit subscribe so you see this go up again. We're going to work on coloring this page later today, so definitely make sure you've hit that bell so that when I go on Orn again, that you'll be able to know, because I will be back on in probably about like a half an hour to an hour. I'm going to go ahead and play the Jim Lujan cartoon to close this out, and then I'm going to call it. So, because I have to show off this cartoon. Jim Lujan, if you guys didn't see last night's episode, Jim Lujan made a completely new cartoon to play as a commercial for this show, and it's one of the best things ever. And aside from that, like, it's just amazing. It's like Gary and Scott Strickland, Gary Hodges, and Jim Lujan all collaborated to make this as a surprise for me, and it made me happy. Here it is.
Well, Mr. Stryker, I have you now. There is no escape. You will tell me where the Kemble files are, or you will die beneath the crushing electric arms of my shocktopus.
I hear you chirping, little birdie, but JT Stryker ain't no stool pigeon.
Very well. You have left me no choice. Bring out the doctor. Say hello to Dr. Hodges. I'm sure you're familiar with the doctor and his work.
If by work you mean the murder and torture of innocents, yeah, I'm familiar.
I've waited a long time for this moment, Stryker, and I'm going to enjoy every minute of it.
That's what your mother said.
Well, that's a horrible thing to say. You don't even know my mother.
Don't let him interrupt you. Come on, man.
Look, fellas, we can tango here all night, but it doesn't change a thing. You're never getting the Kemble files.
Oh, I beg to differ, Stryker. I have certain negotiation methods.
Your mom has negotiation methods.
Stop it. That didn't even make sense. That's not even... It's not applicable.
Listen up, compadres, and listen good. Option 1, I'm giving you 2 bozos and out. You untie me, I walk out of here, and everybody goes home happy. Option 2, I kill everyone in this room and then...
You idiot! You killed him!
I felt triggered. I've been learning to stand up to bullies. I just read 2 stories. Joshua Kemble's raw, introspective graphic novel chronicling mental health, faith, and the struggle for redemption. I also read Jacob's Apartment, a coming-of-age graphic novel about faith, love, and post-college existential drama. They've changed my life choices.
I'm sorry. I had no idea. I, too, am a fan of the books of the Joshua Kemble. But I'm still going to have to kill you.
Kill me with kindness?
Ladies and gentlemen, let's get ready to crumble!
I'm Joshua Kemble, and welcome to Joshua Kemble's Livestream. I've been a freelance illustrator and graphic designer for over 20 years. I was an art director for 9 years. And when I'm not art directing and working on illustrations and graphic designs,
I'm working on comic books and graphic novels, and that's usually what I do during my streams. And while conversations can go all over the place on this stream, from spicy and entertaining to goofy and silly, one thing stays consistent throughout every stream. I'll always be working on art. So pull up a chair, get your art supplies out, and get ready for an entertaining show that'll keep you company while you work on your own personal art projects. This is Joshua Kemble's Art Stream.